Little did we know that we were God the whole time.
All right.
Hey,
How's it going?
we're back with Backsliders with our friend Chase Burnett. Did I do that? Burnett?
Burnett, yeah, that's it.
Okay, great.
I had a neighbor named Barnett. That's different.
Yeah, there's Barnett and there's also there's Barnett and there's also Burnett. Burnt.
Yeah.
Burnett.
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 Yeah.
That's a thing.
So we're excited about this because we only met you once before, right? Probably like over a year ago.
Yeah, longtime friends.
Yeah, maybe longer. To be
Yeah,
honest.
that's wild. We hung out one night. We did yoga with our friend.
Apartment yoga.
That's right.
Apartment yoga with Julia, and she was very excited about us meeting because she thought we would get along because we have similar backgrounds. You're from Texas, from Dallas,
North Dallas, yeah.
nice.
I grew up around there.
Yeah, I'm from Waxahachie.
Oh, cool.
born in
I went to
Grand
Church Canch in Waxahachie.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Yeah, Allen, where I'm from.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's really, man, cream of the crop. People, culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up in the church, like your family, because Mike is a pastor's kid. I don't know if I remember. Are you?
No.
Okay.
No. No, my parents were just, they just loved the Lord and they loved going to church. And I grew up going to church 2 times or 3 times a week. And then, basically, yeah, there's a lot more to it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it, and that's why we're here. I know this is probably an uncomfortable thing to do with 3 cameras around, and
I do this every day.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Chase is like a really brilliant singer-songwriter, musician, guitar player.
Yeah.
He does he makes a lot of great music.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We will link people to your page so they
Cool.
can listen.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah. And do you write, where do you get the inspiration for your songs?
A lot of things. A lot of different places.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of a loaded question. I was just thinking if someone had asked us that, it's we just write whatever we're feeling at the time.
it's always our life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's your life.
Yeah.
It's what's interesting is right now, we're kind of pulling in this theme of feeling like a backslider into our work. And so it made us want to talk to other people about that feeling. I think we knew that we weren't alone. And so we wanted to collect kind of those experiences from other people just to know that we weren't alone.
Yeah.
And I think other people will benefit from that as well. It's just this thing that it's hard, we're insecure about talking about it.
Yeah, kind of fearful.
Yeah.
About putting this out there because we haven't yet announced publicly that our views have changed. Our family can sense it, and I think Mike has had some more forward conversations than I have, but I think I've had more of a people pleaser in me than maybe Micah, just based on your personality. But there's a lot of fear about kind of coming out like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced anything like that or what the process was like with your family when you felt your beliefs changing.
Yeah. For me, I never wanted to be publicly anti Jesus or God or anything like that. I was just kind of hoping to move from Dallas to California and kind of just have my life dissolve, and just slowly become my own person in California. And it did not happen like that at all. I was first of all, I was leading worship for a church back in Dallas and on staff as worship leader and a graphic designer and also helping with our internship program.
So this is a big church.
You were in it.
It's not small, but I was very in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For 6 years, I was
Your life.
my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then basically I just started reaching this place where I was itching and I was I don't feel good about this. Like I have all these questions and none of them are getting answered.
Yeah.
And then there's an opportunity to move to California. And so I moved to California to join another church thing. And then I was just going to like slowly quit all my church things because Dallas was still hiring me to be a graphic designer, like working remote. And so eventually I was just going to like keep doing this graphic design thing, and then I'd quit, and then I'd be like, I just want to like, you know, live in LA and not have to be like tied to Dallas.
Yeah.
But instead I was dating this girl who, after we broke up, she called me and asked me to quit immediately, because if I didn't, word was starting to spread that I like wasn't a like Christian anymore.
Oh, great.
I don't know. It's I don't know. Ask more questions, because I feel like there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, no. I mean, well, it's always
No,
complicated to like try to tell your story in like one paragraph. You know what I mean? Like it's so
there's not like, people have tried to ask us, like we've been working with our manager developing the show idea, and he'll just be like, what's that one moment where you like felt this change? And we still can't really define it. It's like,
I think it's a collection of moments.
It's like an unraveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's like, oh, anti-Jesus, anti-church, or anti-religion, or, well, maybe I am anti-religion, but I am pro-Jesus story, you know? Like,
It's a good story.
Yeah. Great example.
Yeah.
To live up to.
Yeah.
But
I feel like it's just dangerous when it's like, this is the only example to live up to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't explore any other options.
Yeah.
And if you do explore any other options, you're opening your brain up to the devil's voice. And then then when you reach a certain age, I feel like people just start hating Jesus, because they're like, there's so many other options. And then like, I don't know, just like, being like, imagine like being raised and your family was like, here's all of these beautiful people of history and Jesus was one of them. And like, I mean, I don't know if you guys were raised in like super strict, like
we had a different upbringing. Like my parents were in a ministry called The Way. Mm-hmm. They met there. My dad was like the right-hand man to the leader of this ministry, which
bragger.
A lot of people considered a cult, and still do. It's still together now. That leader has since passed, but of course, as like a lot of other culty ministries, you know, a lot of sexual problems. Yeah. A lot of just bad shit comes out of it, which is super. I think some Christians would be like, oh, well, that doesn't represent, you know, it doesn't represent the message of Christ, but it also like did happen under the guise of the message of Christ.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, sure, it doesn't represent your church, but I mean, like, it happens at quite a few of them all the fucking time.
So like, maybe it's indicative of like a reaction to like the beliefs that are being presented. Like, I feel like there's so much shame about sexuality in the church, like in general, that of course it like breeds these like really unhealthy, fucked up scenarios that people just like excuse. Yeah. Because it's easier to excuse and like, oh, that was the devil or that was that one person, than like actually have these longer conversations about like how sexuality is a part of your humanity and how like it's not binary, and you can't just say that it's a sin outside of this one context.
Yeah.
But they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're the son of the Way pastor.
Son of the Way pastor. My dad and mom started their own church plant when I was younger, and they ended up leaving that ministry, but pretty much starting like their own version of the same thing. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't any type of mainstream Christianity. It was kind of like its own offshoot. So I couldn't even relate to other like mainstream Christians. Like, they don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe in Jesus died on a cross. They get real specific. Like Jesus died on a tree, and he had 2 people next to him, not 4, and just very like minutia things that.
Do they matter? They matter to them.
You got to have those details, so it sounds like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, because they got it. They got it right.
Sure too.
Well, it was definitely like the message of like, oh, they got it wrong, we got it right. Mm-hmm. You know, we found some problems with this New King James Version. Mm-hmm. This is what really the Greek and Hebrew says.
Sick.
And you should listen to us.
Wow.
So yeah, it was like almost like a scholarly biblical kind of church,
like
which
real
sounds
theologians.
super, real theologians. Like that word feels very familiar to me. Like,
where are they getting their information from?
So there's this research institute called the Way International.
Oh wow, the Way.
And they actually didn't consider themselves a church. They considered themselves a research center. And so this guy started this research center and started translating the Greek and Hebrew and coming up with these kind of different translations that weren't really problematic, other than maybe the Trinity, which was just his belief that like Jesus wasn't God, which I feel like is kind of a maybe more understandable thing. Mm-hmm. Like buying the fact that Jesus was God and also he had a father at the same time is kind of confusing.
Yeah. I mean, the fact alone that his mother was definitely a virgin was also confusing.
That's very confusing.
Well, it's immaculate, guys.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, we're done here.
I feel satisfied.
Guys, have you never
that.
seen a magic trick? It's real.
I just read this book. At the end of it, I was so happy. The whole book is about angels, and it was like dissecting like all these stories in the Bible about angels, and then this writer was just like basically blowing the stories open and writing this fictional account of stories, like getting inside of Bible characters' brains. Like it talks about Lot and the angels who went and like to get Lot, be like, you better leave the city or else we're going to burn the whole city down. And like it opens up that whole story and like talks about the angels coming to the door and like what Lot must have been thinking with his kids and his wife in there. And then he's like trying to like bide time. Anyways, at the end of it, it talks about Jesus like coming to earth and how there wasn't any angels during those 33 years that Jesus was on the earth. And
really?
then
is that
there's no accounts. Okay. Yeah. Except when he was, before he was born, an angel came to Mary to be like, hey, you're going to have a son.
And was the last angel?
I know. Well, yeah. And then, not the last angel ever, but just like in his 33 years. And then when
like, we're off.
Yeah, basically.
Jesus has got it.
But the book was basically like, they didn't know how to handle like God being on earth in a human form, because the book was kind of talking about how angels like need to be by God's presence at all times to like
stay grounded.
Yeah, stay grounded and like not be like swayed by humanity. And every time they come down to earth, they're like they're not God, but they're not humans, but they can still be kind of tempted. So they're like tempted. The longer they're on earth, the more they get like kind of like swayed into.
My dad's talked about
that
this.
Stuff. It's so interesting.
There's like an era that my dad talks about where he believes that angels came down and mated with women. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was like the era of all these like real giants and stuff. The Nephilim. It was like all these superhumans. Mm-hmm. And it was a mixture of the human race and the angel race.
Yeah, it talks about those in the book too.
That's super wild.
I don't know that much about angels.
Yeah, I mean, who does, you know? Well, some people have seen them.
You know people who have seen them?
I know people who've seen them.
I remember
a lot of your family.
When I was a kid, mm-hmm. I thought I met an angel. Mm-hmm.
Just a pretty girl.
No.
Oh.
You know what it was? It's so ridiculous. So I was at my friend's house and they had a little mini bike. So I was on this mini bike and I drove.
Like a motorized one? Or
yeah,
like
like a motorcycle, but like the smallest ones you've ever seen.
Cool, yeah.
And I was like probably 7, so it was like perfect size for me. So I rode it down the street and it turned off and I couldn't kickstart it. and I couldn't kickstart it. And I'm like just kicking this thing, trying to get it to start. And out of nowhere comes this lady. And she's just like, hey, do you need help? And I was like, yeah. And she like just kicks it once and it starts. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I thought she was an angel. I thought she like came to rescue me. Cause then like, I like start driving down the street and I was like thinking like, oh, I got to go thank her. And I like turned around and she was gone. I was like,
maybe she was.
Wow.
But like,
How
what
old
an
were you?
unnecessary reason for an angel to show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't in danger. I was
You're just annoyed.
a quarter of a mile away from the house. Like, it was unnecessary for me to think that
there's got to be better people that angel could have been helping.
Yeah. But
do?
I thought that I was very scared.
Yeah.
I was very scared, and she came and saved the day.
Oh, okay.
So I bet that meant a lot to you. I feel like with angels and kind of with like any belief, like it does give people like a sense of like, it can give people a sense of like calm and peace that someone's looking out for them. So that's cool that you got that in that moment when you were a kid.
I did.
And they do say that kids are like able to maybe see things that we can't see or like experience that. Like maybe they're more open to whatever other side there is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that's interesting to navigate is like the belief in this magical world that we live in and this insane opportunity to be here on Earth and unexplainable things that do occur on this planet. Mm-hmm. And then, but not wanting to, I don't personally find a need to tie it to an explanation of it. Like,
right.
I feel like my faith has like transitioned into just a relinquishing of control of why and how.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like what I resisted, because, okay, my mom, I was raised by my mom, single mom. We were like a holiday only church family, and she was Catholic. But then in high school, my friend Megan Matthews, shout out Megan Matthews if you're listening, she invited me to go to youth group at this mega church. Do you know Red Oak?
I know, ish, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't know if you had heard of this church. It was called the Oaks, and it was like this massive mega church. And I went there and like changed my life instantly. They're like talking about a God who was like a dad who loved me. They were playing like awesome music. People were jumping around. At first I was freaked out by that, but then I like gave my all to that place for like 4 years. I was on the worship team. I was there like 4 or 5 nights a week. And actually did my first year of college at a Christian university in Missouri. And that's when I really had like the finalized moment of like, oh, I can't pretend anymore, because it was like mandatory chapel every day. And I was like still wanting to be an actor, even though, and I was trying to like balance wanting to be in the arts with being a Christian and like feeling pressure from people to like change that into ministry work or ministry acting, you know? Mm-hmm. And where was I going with that?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Just talking about
your
journey.
Yeah. I think that having everything be defined, like having to like trust in this version of Christianity that I was involved in, which was Assembly of God, and like them constantly trying to be like, well, we've got it right. This is the right way. This is the way to do it. When I was at that Christian university, I finally had a moment where I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I have too many questions. How do you know that this is right? Why are you trying to control people? And like, I think now, to me, the point of faith is like the mystery. And I think that so many religions like take the mystery out of faith. And I think that's the whole point. Like, we all have questions. Like, nobody knows for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like putting any kind of definition, like definite, like defining thing, it just like takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Is what I kind of like, the place I came to was like, why is this interesting? It's not interesting anymore. Like, you've given me the recipe and I'm going to like try this every time I like, you know, like am scared or whatever, or I'm like tempted. And then, I don't know. It's just like, you're just going to give me the answer? No,
right.
Bye. That's basically how it was for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost just like an insufficient, like, answer for massive questions, as opposed to just saying, like, I would respect, like, a pulpit that says, you know what, I don't know everything. But, like, you know what, you don't know everything, just have faith in the things that I say are definitely concrete, and the things I can't explain, just have faith, I have a problem with, you know what I mean? Because it's still putting faith in, that's putting faith in a man, and a man's interpretation, and then, you know, a Bible that, I don't know, I just don't trust the game of telephone that it had to go through to get to here.
Yeah, it's a book written by men.
Yeah. It's a book that I don't think was ever intended to be like a black and white roadmap to anybody's life. It was like supposed to be just like, you know, like this like written out list of stories and events that may or may not have happened. I don't think that's our decision to like decide if it happened or not. It's like, it's just, it's a cool old book. And then some people are like, you know, if you masturbate, you really should question your entire life.
Yeah, like you're going to go to hell for doing that. That's also the thing that bothers me, this whole hell thing, and that there's a God that's like judging you and then damning you. And what about the people who happen to be born in a country that doesn't, like, Christianity isn't the majority religion and they just die, like they're damned eternally?
Right.
Why would you want to believe in somebody that's just like making people suffer?
I get the most confusing, like, random answers when I was a kid, and I would ask these kind of questions that just, like, you know, just kind of, like, pat me on the head, like, don't worry about it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you know, God, you know, my mom would be like, I don't think those kids in Africa go to hell if they die.
I don't think so.
I don't think they do. And I was like, well, then why do we need it? Why is it so necessary that we, like, I must say it and, like, believe in my heart that Jesus died on the cross?
Right.
For me to go to heaven? And it's like, well, because, you know, that's just how we were born here, where we need to do that because, you know, and then, but the people who don't know any different, they're...
Because you don't know what it's like out there if you don't believe this.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
Like, okay.
Do you have friends? I feel like that's the main thing. It's just like shamed into belief almost, or like cornered into belief, or just like adopting kind of groupthink.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's scary to not have the answers, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a little fear with not knowing. And I feel like, especially for like our parents' generation, like they're wanting to double down on like what beliefs were passed down to them rather than like step back and maybe reconsider and like read a couple new things. It's like too much for them to comprehend.
I think the internet is like kind of blowing people's minds in this regard. Like it's just getting too much information out there too fast, and people are like, I can't keep up with that, Diddy. I mean, I think it's kind of what's causing a lot of people to question and prod and poke and feel comfortable talking about their questioning. And they're like, I'm not sitting here trying to claim that I know anything. I'm just trying to say I don't think a lot of people that I knew growing up know anything either.
Yeah, because they were given the same knowledge that we were.
Right.
Or lack of.
And luckily, my dad has kind of come full circle, which has been really interesting to watch because he was very religious my whole life. And just in the last couple years, he's become so much more open to the idea that he doesn't have it all right.
Wow.
And he doesn't believe in hell anymore, which is massive.
Righteous.
He's always been a renegade of Christian beliefs, as we've explained earlier. You know what I mean? Like, he never could fit in at any denomination of a church.
Yeah.
Not even a typical non-denominational church.
It's hard not to fit in there.
Yeah, I know. I went to a lot of those. Like in high school, I went to a Baptist church. It was just like the big Baptist church in town. And then in college, I would go to a non-denominational church because it was just the closest thing.
Yeah.
Some people there spoke in tongues, you know what I mean?
Oh, I spoke in tongues.
I grew up, my parents definitely believed in speaking in tongues.
Of course, you
and
got to.
interpretation, prophecy. You know, I was definitely like encouraged to do that, but I wouldn't do it. Like I was always...
You never prophesied?
No.
It's one of the best parts of being a non-denominational Christian. You can tell the future.
You had the power of a pastor's kid. You should have just done it. I think that also bothered me. I think it bothered me that other people would be like, "Oh, you're gonna
assume something about you
you're
because
so
you're
anointed."
pastor.
Yeah.
It's like, can I live my own life?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you speak in tongues? Were you guys tongue?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of tongues. Yeah.
Like a Pentecostal kind of like in the in the service kind of tongues, or like do it in the privacy of your own prayer time?
Well, both. It was like we didn't like he never like on like a Sunday morning we wouldn't like speak in tongues over the mic over the audience. But like in small groups of like leadership, he would like shout in tongues on the microphone, and then like occasionally we'd sing in tongues.
Whoa.
And yeah.
You should
Just
do an
felt
album.
so good.
You should do an album.
I could record one tomorrow,
Wow.
and it would be anointed by the Lord.
That.
Yeah.
I do have a
people would.
theory. I do have a theory about speaking in tongues that I think has like it has a legitimate place.
Yeah.
I bet if you hooked up the brain to like one of those like neurological sensors, that when you speak in tongues, it's similar to meditation.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's kind of like taking you away from like a real thought.
Right.
You know what
It's
I
like
mean?
chanting. People do that when they meditate.
Yeah.
Right. And so it does connect you to
Just like a void.
source,
Yeah.
Just like
you
Zen place.
You get out of your head, out of your thoughts.
You get
your
into this
judgment.
rhythm, like you get into a rhythm with a mantra, but instead of a mantra, it's just gibberish. So you're not actually trying to come up with anything. You're just like making up. I had the same epiphany one night when I was really stoned with my friends, and I was like, guys, I get how it benefited me, because I used to wake up at like 6 a.m. and do it for like an hour in my room alone, just like pacing around and speaking in tongues.
Wow.
That's meditation.
Yeah, it's probably really
taking
good.
your mind away from something else, and in that action, you are like trying to download something from God or give something over to God.
Yeah.
Like, you do have an intention probably before you do
like
it
I'm filling myself up, and I'm gonna be like so happy and joyful and have the love of the Lord in my heart all day. And you're literally just like focusing on that and spouting gibberish with like really Zen worship music in the background. It's just mostly just like a synth, and then someone going na 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 na, and you're just like crying and alone in your room. Like, why am I crying?
Yeah,
because God's in the room.
Yeah. You were touched.
Yeah, little did we know that we were God the whole time.
Yeah. There it is.
Feel like that whenever we want to.
Yeah, so when, like, that's a big, I feel like Christians would be so afraid by us saying, like, we're God, right? Because it can sound like a blasphemous thing. Like, do you remember, like, the first time you were having those kinds of thoughts?
That I am God?
Yeah. Or what that journey was like to get to that point for you?
I mean, just like...
It's in the Bible, though, too. Let's be real. It's like...
We're made in his image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like basically my thought was like everything that I've ever experienced, all my perceptions of reality, it's all in here, you know? Like everything that like I'm like feel like is around me is in my eyes. Is it the cameras turn off? Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. What's up, Angie, Claude? They're helpers.
I was just like, everything is in my brain right now. Like I can make anything happen. I can think anything I want. I can like talk to people how I want. I can do all these things, and like I literally like can make things happen. And if everything that I think is real is just like coming through this portal, then I'm God.
Yeah.
You know? And like we're all our gods, and if this is our universe.
I mean, it's the same thing that got Jesus killed, was that belief. You know what I mean? It's like he was pretty much saying he was God.
Yeah.
And then they were like, no, you're not. You're going to die. But he was just like practicing the realist connection to God by just saying like, there is no separation of me and God. Like, be still and know that I am God. Wasn't like, be still and know that I, Jesus, am God. It's like, be still, like, do as I say. I mean, like, do as I do.
Literally do this. Yeah. Say this
like,
too.
Be still and know that I am God. Like, oh shit.
Yeah. I think that was like a big epiphany for me, because I feel like when I was a Christian, I felt, even though I was like a child of God or like, you know, a daughter of God, there was still this separation. And it also, I think, subconsciously bothered me because God's defined as like a father and a man, and Jesus was a man, and that feels different from my experience.
Right.
But I feel like it was like through plant medicine ceremonies, like we did ayahuasca twice, and some other things that like I was finally able to hear that, because I used to like roll my eyes when people would be like, well, we're all God, because it sounded so hippy dippy and like woo woo to me. But through like some really quiet like self-reflection, I realized that if I believe that, like, I don't know how to define it. Like, it just started feeling less scary, and like, oh, I do feel connected to everyone. I believe that we're all connected, that like God is in creativity and in God, not defined by any religion, but just this like wonderful, creative, like loving thing. And if that's in other people, that's in me. I'm not separate from it, and I'm not sinful. Like, I always felt like very aware of like being bad when I was a Christian, like not living up to God's standard, when it's like, you're human.
It wasn't even, I mean, I don't know, I'm speaking for you, but it wasn't even like living up to God's standard a lot of the time. It was just like letting somebody else's opinion of me down. You know what I mean? Like, oh, will somebody think less of me? I don't know if I thought about God thinking less of me as much as I thought about other people thinking less of me. Like, I mean, that's probably why this is scary to do. It'll be scarier when I push that button to send it out in the world. Because then people will like know, or they could know. I mean, the title's a dead giveaway.
It's a great title. And a great poster. Who designed this?
Oh, thank you.
A buddy of mine, Cody Watzel. Wow. We have an animation of it too, like that actually flickers.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Cody.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but we're also trying to like take back the term backslider, because like, what does that even mean? Like, it implies that there's a standard of like not a back
separation.
Like, that you can be like good enough and not be a backslider. You know what I mean? But everyone's backsliding. Everyone in the fucking church is masturbating.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. I mean, gosh.
I don't know.
You don't know?
There might be one guy or girl that's pretty religious about not masturbating.
Yeah. Those people are
They're Christians. They're real Christians, okay?
Oh my God.
No. No. You can't. Yeah.
No.
I think they're just like, there's like, you know, there's probably like a hole in their bed. And then they like, well, this is what a guy would do. And then he'll just like fuck this hole in his bed. And to him, it's not masturbating and it's not sex or some other thing. You know, maybe it's like a warm, you know,
I did it in my sleep,
bagel or a watermelon. And no one has to know. And he feels totally good about it. And that's how.
Yeah, they do try to find all these loopholes.
Yeah, there's like, so many loopholes.
Yeah, ways around things. So you're like, oh, I'm
But
good.
There's not avoiding biology, that's for sure. I mean, I remember many seasons of not masturbating, and boy,
right?
Not enjoyable. Like, not enjoyable. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ! Yeah, I had weekly meetings.
A lot of dirty boxers. You know what I mean?
I mean, I was given a book about, what was it called? It was about purity, and like given to teenagers. I wish I could remember the title, but it talked about like
True Love Waits. I don't know.
Not related
Jesus,
to that.
I'm dating Jesus.
No, it wasn't that one.
You know, have you heard that one?
I've heard of that one, but it wasn't that one. But it talked about like, how girls shouldn't touch themselves because like we would make it hard for our husbands to please us. So we shouldn't like learn how to please ourselves. And like, even if like it told the story of this one girl who, to not masturbate, like to beat that urge, she would just have to get up and walk around all night until she just fell down and fell asleep. That was the lesson that I got.
And now she's an ultra marathon runner. And she's
an Olympic gold medalist, and she wears a crossover.
What an origin story.
Never been touched, never been kissed. She is.
No one can catch her. She's so fast.
No, I would just use the shower head. That was my way to get around it because it wasn't my hands.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah. See? Yeah. And like you just like make that.
I was just like cleaning myself.
Yeah.
You're so clean.
I'm just really.
Wow. Yeah, I used to meet with my pastor like every week, and we'd sit down in his office, and he'd be like, "So, how's your purity?"
Oh my God.
Did you? And I'm like, "How many times?" I'm like 4.
He made you report.
Yeah,
and then he'd be like,
"What would he do with that information?"
He would console me and be like, bro, like, thanks for telling me, like, like it's a man's battle, and like, just like. It would be real bad when I'd like feel like very convicted to be like, I looked at porn this week, and he'd be like, what kind?
What kind? Whoa.
And I'd be like, I don't remember, when I obviously did, and he's like, and then eventually we got on this website thing where like he would monitor my websites that I was going to on my phone.
Whoa.
And if I went to a porn website, it would email him. And sometimes, like, I would be so horny, like, even with the knowledge that my pastor was going to get my website, I would fucking look at it knowing that I'm going to talk to him in the morning and be like, lesbians? And I'd be like, I don't know. He's like, that's the worst.
That's the worst.
There's nothing
more evil. That's a double
evil.
sin. You're watching sin on sin.
You're watching sin on sin on sin. I don't even know where to begin.
I wonder, would he get the actual link? Like, do you think he would go to it?
Oh,
like,
I don't know if you click on it, but it would send you like.
But he's always curious about what you're watching.
I know, that's the thing is like, you're a fucking man, and you're getting links from all of your students with like different porn coming into your email.
He was just doing that
it's like a propagator of porn. He's like, what's the good stuff out there?
Yeah, he's like, what are the kids?
Oh, finally,
I need a curated playlist.
Yeah. Animals.
That's wild.
You know what? That sounds like I heard an interview on a podcast that was talking specifically about Mormonism. I guess there's like a tradition that like specifically girls have to confess like all of their sexual sins to male leaders. And it turned out it wasn't like ever anything based in the religious text. Like one person started doing it and then it spread. But that's what that sounds like. But you're not Mormon.
No.
But that's a very like routine.
I mean, it's very like churchy vibe of like having like
accountability.
Yeah,
it's like kind of run like
a have like somebody that's your like
accountability partner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's like in a business, whenever you have like weekly meetings to see how like your sales are doing, but instead it's like checking in on your spirit, like where'd you spend your money this week? Did you spend it on anything bad, or how did you talk to your brother this week, or did you kiss your girlfriend? Did you ride alone in a car with a girl this week?
Oh yeah. I forgot about all those car rules.
Yeah, those are weird.
Or like being alone in a room with a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just I just like think about like, like the 6 years in my life when I was like celibate, 18 through 23, I was like celibate, like terrified to be alone with a woman, or like terrified of myself, like what I was capable of, because I'm like, why do I feel like this? I must be such a sinner.
Yeah.
And
right,
torture.
like your biological urge was like
my body's like, what do you mean you're not going to kiss your girlfriend? Don't tell your pastor you're not going to kiss your girlfriend. And then you feel terrible whenever you like slip a kiss on the cheek, and then you're like, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Which causes like
weird feelings,
so much more secrecy and shame.
Such shame.
Yeah, it like breeds it, and like it's so prevalent. Like there's so many secrets in behind those walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get sex ed? Or did you have
briefly?
Sex ed? Yeah.
Yeah, I had like someone come to my school in like 8th grade and be like, "This is what sex is, but abstinence is the only real way.
Yeah.
That was basically, and then I had like my dad took me on a weekend trip where like it was like a boys like 13-year-old like sex weekend trip. Basically, it was just like
weird description. Chase.
That does sound weird.
Define it.
I'm sticking with it. You know what I mean? Basically, we just like rode in his car in silence, and he put on these like cassette tapes of Dr. James Dobson. You know who that is?
Yes.
And he'd be like, "Sex is kind of funny." You know, and he'd like talk about it, and he'd be like, masturbation, and he wouldn't really describe it. He would just kind of talk about vaguely what happens, and then it always ended with, but it's best to refrain, and it's best to be abstinent, and these are some verses you can like memorize to like combat sexual temptation.
Right.
And
I don't know what I would do with my kid, in regards to like teaching them. Like at what point? I would just maybe like encourage them to like, hey, if you ever have any questions, but they're not going to ask you unless you really force them, I imagine.
But there are like other countries that are like talking to like kindergartners about consent, and like they're not necessarily like defining sex, but they're like, you know, comfortable talking about like body parts and that you need like permission to touch certain areas and things like that. Right. All I had was a True Love Waits assembly.
Oh, nice.
I think it was like a freshman, and they did the metaphor of like the tape. I think it was like a gift. Like if you unwrap it was a gift. It was a tape. I'm mixing metaphors. But if you unwrap it, like you can never wrap it up the same way again. So like it's like damage nobody wants. Like a gift.
The classic hits.
Yeah, that's been opened, and it was so shitty. I was a virgin at the time, but I was sitting next to this girl. She was a theater friend, and she was like, I feel like shit because she had, it was just like such shame permeating. Yeah. That was the only education I got.
Yeah. I mean, that's the tactic, is to like make them feel scared, make them feel bad, make them feel ashamed, to like get all of us to like follow their rules, because like without those things, then we're thinking on our own, you know, then we're not scared, and there's not the fog of like shame and terror.
Do you think they know they're doing it when they're doing it?
I think they're living in it too, so they're just passing it on.
Yeah, they're just
some people are smart, but most of them are just like passing it on.
You're like, this is the hell I live in. You're gonna live in it too.
And that's why
the thing. It's a hell. Like you just created a
your
hell.
own personal hell,
and you're saying live in this hell to get to heaven at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let's have hell on earth, and then die. And like I think that's why people are in such a hurry. Like this place is not my home.
It's a temporary.
Yeah.
You know, don't live
in a terrible, awful place full of sinners.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's really not that bad. You just are deciding to live on the outside of it.
Right.
Yeah, and to live in fear.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like, I don't know if you experienced like moving from Texas to LA and people being like, oh man, going out to LA. Like, of course they knew this was going to happen to you. You know what I mean? Like,
that you'd be on a podcast.
This is exactly what they expected to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are like exactly what they expected to happen.
One of my relatives was like, oh, you're going to LA? A lot of divorce out there.
Specific.
And I was like,
a lot of divorce here too.
My parents had like just gotten a divorce. I was like, they were separated. They hadn't gotten divorced yet, but like I was just like, that's such a fun, classic.
That's what we're known for out here.
I did not.
What?
I'll be careful.
Yeah.
Not to.
I won't get married then, I guess.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, was so much, of those kind of comments moving out here.
Yeah, so that transition, like you said, you wanted to move out here and kind of like just have your life kind of fizzle into your own. And kind of move away from the other one. Were there people that were like holding on to you or like that it felt like I've experienced these moments where I wasn't able to be involved in the church as much because I was doing other activities, and it was like almost instantaneous, the amount of like fear of like
we're losing Micah.
Yeah, we're losing Micah. He's going down the wrong path, and then almost quickly thereafter, it's almost like a shunning. Yeah, you know, it's like, well, he's gone. Bye. See you later.
Yeah,
he's not leading. He's not leading small groups anymore. Must be going to hell.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we don't get too close to him, because now there's a grip of the devil, and we might be.
We saved him once. We can't save him twice.
Hey, I gotta worry about my own soul here. I ain't even worrying about his.
No, it's weird. Because then it's like, then you're afraid of people. It's like, well, it's like they're not afraid of people that are receptive to their message. But if somebody's just like, oh, I don't know, that's your thing, not my thing, they'd be like, probably. And this isn't everybody, but
yeah,
it's a common experience I've felt.
Yeah. I feel like there's the point where they feel like they haven't quite lost you, but they're worried because they can sense your, going down a different path than they saw you going down. Yeah. And so you get the text like praying for you or like, hey, let's catch up. I have, like a word from the Lord. I just want to put on, God was talking to me this about you and all this stuff. And then I think like, when I was like scared when I would get those texts or like fearful or like still like very like concerned about like my eternity, those text messages, I would just be like, God, it's God. And God's like using these people to like jump in my life. I should talk to them. And then I'd have a phone call with someone who'd be like, listen, man, like, like I'm worried about your spirituality. I'm worried about your, like I had a friend who died in a car wreck last week. You just don't know how much time we have left. And I'd be like, oh.
So what was their like?
That's scary.
Their hypothesis was that like you were probably not saved anymore, and so you should get re-saved before you died in a car wreck.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. Well, with that specific person, I like basically I was like to my like church family. It was like I was like Christian, and then I like quit the church because I wasn't a Christian anymore. So there wasn't really like this fizzling out period like I had hoped for. It was like, I'm a Christian and I'm flying home 4 times a year to lead worship at a church and like, like speak in tongues in the prayer group and like lift my voice in prayer. And then I was moving to LA and then like I had this trip coming up. I was supposed to go like record a whole album of songs that I had written. And someone I had been dating called me from Texas and was like, hey, so somebody found out that you're considering yourself an agnostic and word's going to spread around. So-and-so said that they're disgusted that you're this way and they go listen to you sing. You should really call the pastors, like the pastor and his wife, you should really call them and quit right now. Because if you don't, word's going to spread around and they're probably going to fire you anyways. Basically something like that. It's been like 4 years now, 5 years since then, but... So I called my pastor. Actually, I called like 4 people, and I called my pastor, and I was like, hey, listen, I'm like questioning my faith. Yeah. And I don't feel comfortable leading worship at a church anymore because I don't really know if I believe in it, and it doesn't feel right. Yeah. And that's when I get these comments like, if you don't want to work here, that's cool. If you don't like the job, that's fine. But when you say things like you don't know if you believe in God and Jesus, like, get worried about you, like...
No, they're worried about them.
I had these friends who died. Yeah.
When you start questioning, then I start...
What do I do?
wondering why I'm not questioning.
Oh, yeah. Anytime I'd have a question, it was like, well, read this book. And it was like a Christian book written by a Christian. And I'm just like, how is this what I want right now?
Apologetics.
Yeah. Both. Yeah, I sat through so many of those apologetic seminars where a guy would come and be like, this is why the Bible's true, kids.
This is how you debate an atheist.
It's so interesting because like Christians only like want to read Christian, I'm not saying all Christians, but like there's a pressure to only read Christian literature, like listen to Christian music, like really shield yourself from like anything quote unquote secular. But like that doesn't seem like anything Jesus would do. Like Jesus was hanging out with everyone. He wasn't like seeking one type of like person or knowledge. It's so weird that there seems to be so much fear just to like learning things outside of like this one book.
Yeah.
What is that about?
I mean, I think that they probably point to like Jesus saying like, now go and sin no more. But it's like, I don't know if he ever expected anybody to go and sin no more. It's like, he clearly didn't. He knew they were imperfect. He knew they weren't going to become perfect if he had, in fact, said those words, or if that was a created character. I don't know.
Yeah, interpretation.
But I think that they point to that and be like, well, he did say he forgives them, but to never sin again.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of mental gymnastics. I think that's why there's so much like hiding. There's so much secrecy. There's so much like masking. Like, yeah, I'm totally great. Everything's good. Just living the Lord's dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably what drove us to like, wait, there's gotta be more to this. And I don't think that there's like nothing to the Bible and like nothing to religion. I just feel like I can't take it at face value from somebody else who I think is way underlearned.
Right.
Right. Extremely underlearned.
Right.
Like looking back at some of the people that I was taking advice from, I'm like,
why?
What?
Yeah. Like literally, like I look back to certain conversations I had with people and I'm like, for years, I like sat in rooms with people who literally their whole speech and vocabulary, it seemed like they were reading off a script, like all the time.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime. And like for years, I just kind of just like, was like, all right, this is just how they talk, or this is just their personality. And then you kind of wake up and you're like, no, I need to get the fuck out of here because like nobody in here thinks for themselves.
Yeah, there's a script. It's like the Truman Show. It's like, be this way, like wear this mask, like, and then once you break out of it, it feels awesome because you're like, oh, I don't have to be afraid to like admit that I'm flawed or like express my opinion or seek knowledge outside of what people have also read.
Right.
Yeah.
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 When I imagine that moment when you like told the pastor, like, yeah, this is kind of how I am. Like that was like a big relief. But I imagine it was also not like just like flipping a switch, that it's been like a long journey of coming to terms with certain things about yourself that you thought were filthy and unlovable and unworthy. And because I feel like I still go through that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the truth? But it's like we have to look at those things and then start being like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? This is what I thought it meant. This is what I was told it meant. But now that I'm willing to like dissect it from a different point of view and from a place of empathy and love for myself, what is the truth?
Yeah. A lot of years past just trying to like wrap my head around my own brain, like and like constant thoughts of just like questioning if that thought was mine, or if that thought was like
was it a God thought or a devil thought?
Yeah. Like that happened for so long, like, oh no, this is something evil, and then you get to a point where you're like, oh, fuck being scared of my own brain. I need to like live and think what I think and then like come to terms with it and then like decide what I feel like is healthy and not like just like live in that constant fear of like always like feeling like anything that's not, I don't know, you're just like always feeling gross. And like so many people walk around like that, just like feeling like the way they think and the way that they talk and like they make a mistake and they do something and they just like feel like a terrible person. And it's like, take a deep breath. There's a lot of weirdos around that like are down to be weird too.
Yeah. And we're all human. Like, if you're pretending to have it all together, like you're pretending, and who wants to live their whole life not being themselves, just like out of fear? Like, I feel bad for people who do live their whole lives like as a masquerade. Like, I think we're all really lucky that we were able to and have like the type of personalities that could withstand the kind of exodus that we went through. Yeah. And just I never had any like straightforward conversations with people when I was leaving, or at least I don't remember. Maybe I blocked them out, which is also interesting because now I'm like, did nobody care enough to try to save me and like keep me in the church? But I do still feel like just through social media, like I know some people from church still follow me, and like it's in the back of my mind every time I post something honest. I'm like, oh gosh, like they're probably thinking like I'm so like
every time
horrible or sinful.
Yeah.
It's like for people, it's like, oh man, if this person sees this, they're gonna really know the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I care. I'm trying not to. I think I don't, but I do. I
mean, it's human. Like, I think it's normal to want to be liked.
Yeah, I just want to still be loved by them.
Exactly.
I know what's at stake, and I don't want their love to be at stake.
Yeah.
But I know that it is, and that, like, is really sad.
But I can also relate to, like, being at that stage where, like, when I was so into, like, church and Bible and like right and wrong, it was hard for me to talk to people that I was worried about because of all the fear associated with it, that they would cause me to struggle, or you know what I mean? Like, I try to have empathy for them because like their hearts are in the right place. Like they're trying to do right? You know, like follow God and be, but it causes you to be so judgmental towards yourself. And so obviously you're judgmental towards other people.
Somehow it gets like mutated where it's like the message of love, or the message of love
conditions.
Until, I don't know why there isn't more being spoken about that in the church environment.
Of like what specifically?
Of like why there is so much like not love.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I feel like the root of it is just like a lack of understanding. Like when you grow up in those Christian circles, like community is the most important thing when you're a Christian. Is like they tell you at church, like find your community, find your people.
Yeah.
Those are going to be your strength. Like find the church that you're going to go to. That was such a big point. Like when I was moving to LA, make sure to find your church. And there's always getting text messages. You find your church yet? You know?
Home church.
And like when you're in those communities, you find your people, you find the people that all think just like you. Yeah. And like anything outside of that is foreign. And it's almost like anything outside of your bubble, they must be rebelling against you. You and your world. It was like the way I was brought up, at least, and like,
right, they're in opposition to your worldview.
Right.
There's only a binary thing.
Right. They know how to be right, but they're being bad.
Yeah.
If you sat down those 10 people in your close group of friends and like made them honestly answer a survey of their beliefs and their practices and their sins or their things that they're good at or whatever, they're not even going to agree on everything.
Yeah.
They've just decided like, oh, those 2-3 things that we all kind of know that makes us churchgoers, we agree on those and that's enough.
Yeah.
But then it's like anybody who's kind of like not within that realm.
Yeah.
It's like you got to go.
Well, it's tribalism, right? It's like the illusion of safety when you surround yourself with people that like you feel like you're all on the same page with.
Yeah. And it's so important to have close friends. Like I do miss that about my church is like a constant source of friends. Just like lifting you up and telling you how much
miss that too.
You know, like they love you all the time.
I think that's why we're doing this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is your initiation into our community.
I'm just going to come back every week.
We would love to have like practicing Christians on here. I think that we will.
Oh, for sure.
Hopefully the ones that are brave enough to be associated with the title Backsliders.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a scarlet letter.
It's true.
But yeah, that's something that we talk about all the time. Like, because when we visit church friends or just see all of the people that they have in their lives, it's easy to be envious of that. That's like a really special thing that the church gives you. You have like this huge extended family that will be there for you no matter what. And outside of that, I don't know how you get that other than like, you know, a band or like making a film, like, you know.
Sure.
You started an improv troupe, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many ways.
Yeah.
But I feel like leaving the church, like you were kind of made to feel like this is the purest and like only way to find like this kind of feeling. But it is hard to find that, especially when the main community you've had your whole life is your youth group or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you leave that, like, how am I ever going to like find anything like that? Because I'm honestly turned off to anything
Google.
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta go work at Google.
Yeah. Work at Google.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They got cafeteria food all together. It's very community driven.
Wow. Okay, I'll just go get a job. I'll apply. I need a job.
Yeah. Very socialist, but they're, you know, they don't require you to worship Jesus.
I think that's really interesting, like the paradox of that the desire for community, because we're the same way, but also like very apprehensive of communities.
Right.
Like even certain, you know, places like yoga classes or something, or improv, if it gets like too culty or like all or nothing, I'm totally turned off by it. But at the same time, I wish I was able to have like a bunch of friends all the time and, you know, consistently meeting with me.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But I feel like in those groups, like outside of your community it just, everything feels weird or like wrong. So I feel like because I feel the same way when I post things on Instagram. I know who's looking at it and who's going to be rolling their eyes and who's going to like make a comment next time I see them in Texas or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, of course, like I'm living so foreign and so different outside of anybody in their circle.
They'll keep following you though?
They'll keep following. Well, I do lose quite a bit of followers on a daily basis, but that's fine.
Because of what you would say
post.
Or do? Yeah.
They're like, they're your old friends?
I guess. I don't really, I mean, I don't know who unfollows me.
Right.
I just know every time I post a picture of like, you know, a nude selfie.
Yeah.
I do that from time to time.
They're gone.
I lose them. Or I get like a DM, or in Texas, they'll be like,
what are you doing, bro?
So you're gay now?
If you're naked, you're gay, Chase. Damn it.
I mean, we can talk about my sexuality. It's a lot more complicated than that. Yeah. I don't know. Fuck. You know, but there's like there's no understanding, which is fine, and I obviously understand it because I lived in a suburb of North Dallas my entire life. I know what it's like to like feel massively uncomfortable by anything that's not like so. I don't know, like what they're used to, you know?
Yeah.
When you spend 90% of your time at church and you get on Instagram and you see your youth pastor or your old worship pastor naked, I'm sure that makes you uncomfortable.
Right,
Shocking.
yeah.
But
I wish it just wasn't an affront on like who they are.
Right.
Like you being you isn't like a problem for them.
Right. That's that's just like, it's like, you know.
What's the big deal? Like, what are you doing to them?
Yeah. Like the caption is not take off your clothes. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. You're not forcing like them to look at it.
Think what I think. But that's another thing that I like was so like just like not into about Christianity was like you can't be free to just be like I like the way that person thinks even though it's nothing like how I think.
Right.
You know? I just like am dying for people to just be interested in things that are other than what they're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Curiosity.
Yeah, like aren't you even curious about like what other people think? Like aren't you even curious about what this like the theory of evolution is? Because like I was way too old when I learned about evolution. Like way too old.
Because it's the devil's theory.
Yeah. It's no use. I mean, a lot of churches have come around to like, you know, like be more open to evolution, but like
science.
Growing up, it was like not even worth learning about.
Yeah.
It's just, you know.
Yeah.
Just great.
I mean, it's easy to control people when you like tell them there's a bunch of things they just shouldn't worry about because, oh, wow, Claude.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. I inhaled
Yeah, come do a podcast with us. You'll get Topo Chicos.
Yeah.
We would love to be sponsored by Topo Chico if you guys are into conversations about evolving spirituality and backsliding. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, a little plug there for free.
Plugged.
There you go.
Free advertising.
They're like,
just I don't know what they want to be associated with. They seem cool.
Yeah, they're owned by Coca-Cola now.
Okay, so that's pretty pure.
It's pretty just don't touch controversy.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Because one of the Jenners did like a commercial that was
Pepsi.
Okay, good. I was just saying I didn't know if it was Coke or Pepsi.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I never actually saw the commercial, but I saw.
It was so
a lot
moving.
Of shit about it. Yeah.
No.
It was
what
so
a
moving.
joke. Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Oh wow. Yeah. So.
Was there anything else that was like kind of like that stands out to you when you were kind of going through this season?
I mean, like,
not to put you on the spot.
I mean, it's like there is a lot. I'm just like, like sex is the main thing, has been the main thing leaving the church is because like, and I like feel like
they just think you're out here at sex parties and at fuck fest.
I don't know. They haven't talked to him about that. I don't know what,
they don't know about the sex parties.
They can think whatever they want. Maybe they don't think about me at all. That's fine too. But I like, it was just like,
personally.
Yeah. But like, I don't know, like literally just was like a normal horny boy my whole life and like thought that the way I was supposed to be was this one way. And then leaving the church, that was one of the main things I wanted to explore. But I also like still had this like very strong conviction about like being, like good and right about it, and like sex is so confusing and so I mean, it's not confusing, there's just like so many people think so many different ways about it, and that's been really interesting for me, is just like people like to have sex. People actually like to have sex.
And some people aren't ashamed, and you're like, whoa, who are you?
Yeah. Some people are totally
like
comfortable.
Just as ashamed, and they're like, we're getting married, and
right.
You're like, oh shit, I thought I was exploring. Now I'm getting married.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah. And then I don't know. I had conversations with friends who like just like really encouraged me. Like, I have this friend who's like probably like 10 years older than me, and he just like sat me down one day, and he's like, there's no rush to like figuring anything out, and like you probably might go back and forth your whole entire life of like what you think is right and what you believe. And like, I think that's the point, is just like always being open. And like, I'm such a advocate of just like keeping open, and like never deciding this is the right way, and I'm just going to hold on to this. And like, I mean, I like to have goals, and I like to have things that I'm aiming towards, but I feel like my life now, like post church, like my whole brain and my life and my schedule is just constantly open and like ready to like learn new things and try new things, and never be scared to like say things, which I'm constantly working on. But that's kind of my like, I don't know, my motto or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like,
That's why you're here.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, I'll come and talk about this shit. I don't know. My mind might be totally different in 2 years. Maybe I'm a pastor.
Yeah, maybe.
And we can come back and I'll talk to you guys about why,
why this was wrong.
Why I take all this back, and I just want to confess, and just God is my witness.
I know, it's crazy to think about.
That happens. It happens.
It's true.
Maybe Keely and I are starting a church.
Maybe we are.
Know?
Yeah.
I mean, my like 19-year-old self would not believe like all of the shit that I believe now and have done. Like, I was so ruled by fear. I wouldn't smoke weed. Like, I was terrified of everything. And now the fact that like we talk so openly, the fact that I talk about sex and like masturbation and admit to like doing drugs and stuff, I would never have seen that coming. I mean, that's just like the physical
drugs?
stuff. I do some drugs. Not constantly.
Plant medicines.
Plant medicine.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Medicines,
It's healing.
But yeah, I think being open, like I think what that guy, the advice that he gave you is like what everyone should be taught, is like an openness to the unknown and curiosity versus like decidedness, control, and fear.
Yeah. Like, don't be scared to believe things. Don't be scared to change your mind.
Yeah.
Because like,
Don't be scared to be wrong.
Yeah. Don't be scared to find other ways.
Go through a painful experience.
Yeah. Don't be scared to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You're
going to be okay. There's not eternal damnation on the other side of it.
Yeah. It's all a mystery. Like, we're all figuring it out. And I don't know why that's so hard for people to admit. I mean, I think it's a security thing, right? Like, I feel like it feels better to pretend to have certainty about like how things are supposed to go. But really, we're all like, floating around trying to figure out like how and why the fuck we're here and what to do with it and who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's really fun to think about all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, the freedom to think is the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to kind of wrap this up. Freedom to think is the best.
I think Freedom Riders.
Freedom Riders. Maybe that's what this should have been called. Yeah.
Damn
Gosh.
it.
Yes, Hillary Swank.
It would have been much more approachable.
Yeah. I like Backslide. I mean, it does. I like what we're doing. I like the title. I feel like it's empowering because, like it will be triggering for some people, but those people, I think they'll probably listen anyways, just like they masturbate anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
we know you're going to masturbate.
Yeah,
you might be masturbating while you're watching
this.
This
Is ear porn.
Yeah.
This is ear porn.
But there's video too, right? Or is this just audio?
Yeah, there is video. Okay, well, some people.
no, this is just so we look legit.
Some people will just listen, right?
True.
I don't know. But thank you so much for talking with us.
Yeah,
Hopefully
we
we do this
appreciate
again.
it.
Yeah.
We'll play one of your songs at the end of this, right?
Oh, yeah.
now.
Cool. I wonder what song it's going to be.
Oh, do you want to plug your channel? Like, what's your name? How do people find you?
You can find me On Spotify, just my name, Chase Burnett, or YouTube, Chase Burnett, or Instagram is Healthy Photo, and yeah.
Sweet.
Cool. And we'll put that in the info.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
No, I'm not saying that it wasn't real. I'm just saying that you made me feel bad. Don't try making me a better deal. I'm done with you and I'm fine with that, and that's that. You can stay mad, I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't take back anything I said before. You can stay mad,